A sump pump is a management device system that ultimately will manage the water that enters underneath the house. Now it tends to be installed into a corner of the house. With KC Pier, we'll tend to create the space, for the installation of the sump pump itself, but it is there to ultimately manage water. And this is the KC Pier typical sump pump. In this particular case, this one happens to have a battery backup as well, but the sump pump ultimately is regulated by a float valve, and it sits inside the basin. So this basin is actually installed underneath the floor at floor level of a typical basement or crawl space, and then the sump pump sits inside that floor. There'll be cutouts in the sump pump basin that allows water to penetrate through, and as water penetrates through and obviously comes up the basin and this float goes up, it will initiate this pump to begin pumping the water out and discharging it away from the home. Now the KC Pier sump pump tends to be a commercial graded sump pump. It actually has a 3/4 horse, 3,500 gallons per hour sump pump that's built into it, with also a 1/3 horse battery backup sump pump that is installed just in case the power goes out. The basin is a professionally molded basin as well, so everything is installed in a professional manner. And then we also have monitoring systems with our sump pump that manage things through power. These plugs will plug in and manage through power. This will actually sit on top of the basin itself that manages water. So if water is actually placed onto it, it'll set off alarms. This is a humidifier that sits on the humidity sensor that sits on the discharge tube that we mount there. And all of that is monitored by KC Pier. So when you get a sump pump through KC Pier, you actually get professional monitoring system. And if there's ever triggers of any of those alarms, whether it's power, water, or humidity, those alarms go off internally here at KC Pier. They also send the homeowner alarms to their phones or emails, so we can monitor to make sure that your systems are working. And if this is placed obviously in the basement, it's protecting the investment behind the basement as well. But a sump pump is there to help manage water, and many basements in Kansas City need a sump pump to help manage that water, get it away from the house, and protect the investment that's sitting in the basement itself. There are really big differences between, say, the box store sump pumps and then the sump pumps that we install here at KC Pier. Essentially, this, which is our battery backup sump pump, it's a 1/3 horse sump pump. That single sump pump itself is what you tend to buy at your typical box stores. So this one, which would be a part of this sump pump basin, would be your box store kind of sump pump. With KC Pier, this is the backup. This is our commercial grade 3/4 horse sump pump that comes with every sump pump that we install. You get both of them. You actually get 2 for 1. This is a 3/4 horse sump pump that pumps about 3,500 gallons per hour, and then it's hooked to a battery backup sump pump that ultimately gives dual protection in case the power goes out. And all of our sump pumps, when they're installed with KC Pier, come with, of course, our monitoring systems that monitor water, humidity, and also power. And those alarms go off to the homeowners and to us here at KC Pier as well. Now, the other piece about these sump pumps is these can be paired with our interior drain systems. And with our interior drain systems, which are cut out when cold joint water is intruding into the basement itself, are paired with our drain tubes. And we have 2 different styles of drain tubes here. We have jet systems that will actually self-clean, or we can clean these out. And we have our standard drain tube that will run as a drain over into our sump pump, so we can protect a full basement with the use of just 1 sump pump and 1 battery backup. Each of these, whether you use this type of drain tube or the self-cleaning drain tube itself, they both can cover up to 100 feet with the use of 1 KC Pier sump pump and battery backup. So we have multiple solutions for homeowners, which are much more expansive than, say, your typical box store sump pump, i.e. that maybe this 1/3 horse sump pump. So those are the types of solutions that we can provide homeowners, along with our professional monitoring systems that will go off with alerts and alarms and actually give you stats and feedback on how this sump pump is performing. All of that comes inclusive with Pier versus your simple, 1/3 horse or 1/2 horse box door sump pump.